Hello, hello, and welcome to Let's Talk with NP Student. I am Dr. Patrice Little here to help you stay updated with every aspect of your life in and out of school. So consider this. You are at a turning point in your semester where it's midterms and you didn't do too well on your NP exam or NP midterms. And you have two choices to either let this be a defining moment or let it be a refining moment. Today, we are talking about choosing the latter, the five mistakes you should avoid when you failed your NP midterm. So I'm excited because this is a time where, this is a talk where I notice most people do not go into but it happens. So for those who are tuning in, if this resonates with you, you are not alone, and I am going to be able to bring you out, bring you through that point. So let's just delve right into it. So the first mistake is panicking. So panicking, because I'm going to go over five. So make sure you have your notes out. So the first mistake is panicking. And the reason why I put that there is because it is a natural human response when you do not do well. Of course, I can talk from a place of not performing well, not particularly in MP school, but in a different program. So for those who are getting to know me, I am, of course, Dr. Patrice Little, founder of NP Student, the first educational and lifestyle platform solely dedicated to help registered nurses transition competently and confidently into nurse practitioners. And before even the thought of becoming a nurse practitioner entertained my mind, I was pursuing a degree in biology pre-med. So that was something that I brought to the discipline of nursing. So I know what it's like to not perform well on a midterm in pursuance of another discipline, but not particularly NP school, but it's still applicable. And the first thing that happens is you're in a state of shock. You're panicky. You don't know what to do. You don't want to lose your financial aid. There's so many things that run through your head, as in, how are you going to get through this? So I have quite a bit of notes here. So you're going to see me reference a bit so I make sure I don't miss a point. And so that is a natural human response. So the first thing is to acknowledge that, hey, what I'm feeling right now, this is normal. So once you get over that shock of knowing that this is where you are, and it depends on what your grade is going into the exam. I have to mention that. For instance, if you were entering your NP midterms and you had like a strong A, 99 or 98, and then your grade just end up dropping to about an 85, you're still passing. This may resonate more with those who were going into the midterm exam with a 78 and then they bomb it, and now they're at like a 69 or 70. And we all know that only one C is tolerated in most nursing programs, but of course you don't want to get that C. So we want to talk about how to avoid it. So the first thing, of course, you said you're panicky, which is a normal human response. You take a deep breath. Okay, take a deep breath. I can't tell you how many times I've been in situations that were a bit shocking or traumatic, however you like to describe it, and how much taking a deep breath or pausing helped me make the next best decision. And so when you take a deep breath, it just allows you to be just right there in the moment. And you hold that moment, and you, of course, once again, acknowledge that it's happened, and then you prepare for your next step. And oftentimes I have to say things to myself like, okay, this is where I am. Right now, I have a 70 in this course or 69, and we have 8 weeks left. So typically around midterms, most programs per semester is 16 weeks long. So midterms kind of occur around that time. And you usually take your test just before you are able to withdraw. So you could always look at it from a place of abundance. And people say, how is that abundance, Dr. Little? I'll get to my point later. But you look at it as a place of abundance. You have the opportunity to really pause and withdraw and come back again when you're stronger and more suitable and your mind is more fit for the situation, for in situations in NP school. Or you can rearrange or re strategize and come back stronger and finish strong. But it's all based on your situation. See, it's not the same. Everyone's situation is not the same. It's not a one size fit all when it comes to how to navigate through failing a particular class. So now you've assessed the situation. And then the next thing is, of course, you want to consult with someone. You can always consult with me. But you may feel comfortable with someone who you have a rapport, established rapport, and that's even better. They know your thoughts as far as how you go about processing things, and they know a bit more about your situation. So they maybe have a little bit more insight on how to guide you. Now, remember, most of us have the answers to what we need to do next, or which you can call gut feeling, inside of us. And usually, when we consult with someone else, it's just something to reaffirm. So that's basically it for step one. Now you're out of the shock, you're no longer panicking, and you are ready for step two. Okay, so the mistake number two is ignoring feedback. So remember, you just went from panicking into shock, and then you took a breath, you assessed the situation, you're consulting with a mentor or someone who has a little bit more experience than you to help you navigate the next steps. Now they're going to give you feedback. And the feedback is, of course, is based on the information that you give them. Now, some of us don't want to share too much of our information, and that's understood and respected. But usually, when you really need help with trying to make your best steps, you need to give enough information that's relevant for them to be able to help you make the best decision. So, for instance, I'll give you an example. When I was in NP school and I was overwhelmed, and what happened is, I believe at that time, I was still working full time, had my husband, had my daughter, and it was a bit overwhelming trying to manage my job full time as well going to MP school part time. And that's the thing, the program is rigorous. So even when you go part time and work full time, it's still a lot, but I was still trying to tend to the responsibilities at home because I don't know about you, but with me, it's hard for me to study when a place is a mess. So I was one of those individuals where if the place was not well kept, I would have to clean everything. So most of the times, my home will be spotless after 2 to 3 hours of supposedly dedicated study time. And then I didn't get the studying done. So I had shared this with someone that I look up to, like a mentor. And she said, well, why don't you consider getting someone who could come and clean your house? Well, I grew up that way because for my culture, we usually have helpers. But one of the things is didn't know how that would work because of my home dynamics with my spouse. He wasn't really open to that. But I just say that without going too much into the details that there are options out there or certain types of resources that you could use that you delegate some of your tasks that you have to do so you can lighten up the load so you can focus more on your studies. So again, I use that example because it is feedback, and I ignored that feedback, and I tell you, it was intense. I got through it, but I would have been able to get through it a little bit better as far as not as much stress or heartburn if I would have just considered that feedback. So again, the second mistake is ignoring the feedback. And of course, I mentor many students and I give them feedback. Usually, again, I tell them, I said, hey, you already know the answer. When you come to me, you already know the answer. It's in your gut. You just need to follow it through. And oftentimes, we are scared of what's going to happen when we take a step that our spirit is really guiding us to take. And so when you make decisions out of fear and you decide to go opposite of what your instinct or your gut feeling says, then 9 times out of 10, it will not be the best decision. And then you'll find yourself saying, I should have done that. I knew I should have taken that way. So, mistake number two, do not ignore the feedback. All right, mistake number three. It's interesting because all of these mistakes are intertwined with the panicking and ignoring feedback, but lack of self reflection. Lack of self reflection. So avoiding self-reflection. Again, that self-reflection occurs. It's almost like for those of you who've driven stick shift. I know how to drive a manual shift vehicle. And so one of the things is it's almost like you have to have your foot on the clutch and on the brake around the same time, kind of to balance it off so you could take off driving when you're in first gear so the car doesn't shut off, right? So it happens the same way when when you first find out what your grade is and you're panicking, but at that same time, you want to be able to segue as quick as possible into self-reflection so you could make the best decision for your circumstances. And the reason why this is important is because you are on it's time sensitive. If you are if it's midterms and now you have a C in a class or a very high D, that it's time sensitive to make a decision of whether you should withdraw or not. So I say that once again, that use that reference with the whole driving a stick shift is the fact that you have to give yourself not too much time to really take your foot off of the brakes and in between keeping your foot on the clutch. Same thing with the panicky. You allow yourself to breathe, you assess the situation. If you go straight from panicking to making a quick decision without really reflecting your circumstances, because sometimes your circumstances can look very meek. I've had situations like that before where things look like it will not get better, where it feels like I'm at the very end of my rope. I can't figure out how I'm going to get out that situation. And I promise you, where sometimes the most miraculous things happen just by me taking a pause and reflecting. And so that's mistake number three. Because again, some of the best lessons I've learned came from taking a step back and evaluating my actions and then determining how to move forward. So let's move on to mistake number four is failing to re-strategize. So for many of you who are, of course, are in maybe your second semester or further along in your NP school journey, you're probably familiar with the whole SWOT analysis. That's one way you could come up with a plan where you could look at your strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and some of the threats. You can do that, but one of the things that I talk a lot about on my platform, I like to talk about the Dwight D. Eisenhower, where he has that matrix. It's a life matrix, and it's really like almost, it's just a square and with four spots in there, and and it's it allows you to really sit down and think about things that are urgent, non-urgent, important, and somewhat important. And what you do is you evaluate really what's going on in your life and you place certain different types of tasks. Because I'm telling you, oftentimes when students do not perform well, and I've noticed this in academia, is not per se that they do not understand the material. It could be that they have so much going on up here, it's hard for them to retain when they're studying. And because it's hard for them to retain, then they're not going to perform well. So that's, I mean, it's simple mathematical equation, even though I'm using words, right? So when you go back and you reevaluate what's going on in your life, you're able to determine the next best step. It may not be, maybe the anxiety that you have is because you're not investing enough time. So that's another possibility. It could be the fact that you're not making enough time to be able to sit down and grasp the material. Again, there are many things that contribute to someone not being successful on their NP midterms. And it's really identifying which one is relevant to you. Are you the one who you have so much going on in your mind space that you're not able to retain, or you have so much going on in the point where are not able to sit down and really look at the material at all, so you're really almost kind of like absorbing based on what you hear in the class? Or are you the one who just at the end of the day just need help with understanding material? Once you identify which one resonates with you or that category that you fit in, then it's easier to strategize and to get help. So definitely be proactive about this. And usually I tell my students who come to me to do this at the beginning. Before you even start your NP journey, the educational journey, you should have already been doing the lifestyle metrics to figure out what you have currently going on in your life that can no longer go with you in your next season of you pursuing personal development, which we call NP school. All right. So again, that's mistake number 4, failing to re-strategize. So the last and final mistake is isolating yourself. Okay, how many of you are guilty like me for isolating yourself? Okay, raise your hand. All right. I am definitely a loner, which is not good for quite of a number of reasons, but it's also my strength. I spend a lot of time alone because it allows me to reflect and allows me to create, and then also keeps me out of like drama. But when it comes to pursuing a particular goal, you cannot do it alone. You do better being connected to a community, to a mentor, or a community that provides mentorship and where you can have that type of support, as well as advocacy if there's a challenge to help you, for someone can help you navigate, who can advocate for you if something were to arise in your program. And again, I can't emphasize enough about community and academic journey. It's really important. One of the things that we do is we offer virtual office hours here at MP Student on Thursdays. You could always go to our main website, mpstudent.com, and sign up to the virtual office hours, where we provide real-time support on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and that's 5 p.m. Pacific Time for those students who are attending an online program. Okay. And so it's in the context is still applicable to those who are going to a traditional program. But usually what we find is that students who attend traditional program, they have more support versus online program. There's a lot of isolated learning and you find yourself teaching yourself. So again, you do not want to move any further in your journey if you've already started and you're already not performing optimally by yourself. So that's one of the things that we like to offer. Again, it's complimentary. So I hope I've covered a lot, and I'm hoping everything had resonated with you. Again, to recap, the 5 mistakes you should avoid after failing an MP midterm, and that's number 1, panicking. And number 2, ignoring feedback. Number 3, a lack of self-reflection. Number 4, failing to re-strategize, and I love strategy. And last but not least, number 5, isolating yourself. That is the first step really into making sure that you are successful in NP school. And again, I hope you found this information valuable. If you did, share it with your peers, share it with your instructors, and then also please feel open to give us feedback on what more topics you would like to hear and how we could help you be successful as you transition from registered nurse to NP student. Again, I am Dr. Patrice, and thank you for joining us here at Let's Talk, and we will see you next week, Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You take care.